Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show.
We just got breaking news in.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show. We are back with what might be our last Thursday night live, because now that the offseason's hitting, we might be bumping this over to Friday nights. But yeah, we're back with our last in-season live show, although I guess we can officially say it's now football season because the Giants have been eliminated. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little Giants baseball here. On this episode, we're gonna touch a little bit on probably, not too much in the games themselves, because I mean, it's kind of depressing if we want to talk about that, but we'll talk a little bit about some of what we're hoping to see the last series against Colorado here. We'll talk a little bit of the offseason, some things that they need to do. I know Pavlovich had I don't know if it was an article or he had an interview or he just went on his podcast or whatever he did, but he made some comments on what he felt, what he was hearing about the direction of the team. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. And we'll talk, the Willie Mac Award's going to be tomorrow. I think we'll give kind of our favorites for that. And yeah, I don't know. We'll just see where it goes.
Yeah, got a few things to talk about, but like you said, as long as we're not talking about the state of the team as it stands, I think it'll be a good night for sure. Because, like you mentioned, it was a depressing way to end a promising, there's potential for a promising ending to the season, and the way that it's going out is just kind of depressing. So,
yeah, I mean, do I share the post from from the other day that kind of sums up a lot of games this season?
Do it. I know which one you're referring to. Do it.
And here it is, everybody.
Yeah. Dude, that one, 622, that one did numbers for you.
Yeah, that one did pretty well. There was another one that, Dan, here we go.
The one that Ricky made.
Those of you that remember, yeah, this was Ricky's. He made this. Yeah, that's a good old Armando Benitez for if you know. Yeah, we were Cactus League champs. I got almost 1,000 likes. Just troll. Gosh. So yeah, I think that those three basically sum up the last week or so of how we felt. But we're gonna jump into some better stuff to talk about than that. Yeah, so we'll start off with, what do we want to see before we jump in on, where we think the team needs to head, all the, the laundry list of upgrades that they need to look at. We'll kind of just start off with the last, we got one more series. It's Colorado. Here's the stat padding series for everybody that's trying to make a couple extra bucks next season. What do we want to see this weekend?
I mean, the biggest thing Mark touched on, I want to see Willie somehow get 2 more bombs, break the streak, dude, break that curse. If he can do that, to me, it's a successful season to an extent. You're able to at least accomplish some goal, but that's the biggest thing I want to see. And then get JV a win on Saturday. I mean, he's obviously probably going to walk this offseason, so if you're able to just, get him at least one more win before he does so, that's a dub to me. But no, get Willie to 30. Oh my God.
So that actually leads right into what I was going to say is mine is lose at least one game in this series so we don't hit the dreaded 81-81 record, because that would just sum up the entire season, starting out hot, going extremely cold to the point where you're like, okay, this might be a chance to get further up the order in, next year's draft in the summer. And then they pull you right back in, and they're literally in a wild card playoff spot for all of an hour or two. and then immediately tank, and then we're right back where we started at a nice even 500 or roughly 500 record. So just lose one game in this series. Just blow one. Give the Rockies a little bit of happiness at the end of the year.
Just for anybody that's wondering, I haven't touched this yet. Right now, the Giants are estimated at the 9th pick. So, I mean, I'm never really an advocate for tanking or anything like that, but you know, it's to not be sitting at 13 for like the 15th straight season would be kind of nice. That's all we're gonna get at here.
and you know, these teams like the Guardians and the Nationals, like, can the Giants get a little bit of their luck in this new draft lottery? Like, the Giants have gotten shafted pretty hard the last couple of years. Like, can we get a little bit of luck? And I don't care about the number 1 pick, even though we've seen the MLB draft lottery is all over the place. But can we just get a little bit of luck and just move into like the top 5 and get like a really legit power hitter or big time college arm that can, you know, be flown through the system in like a year and a half?
Didn't the Mariners get the 2nd pick in the last?
They're another one. Yeah, they're another one. So
Cleveland
it's like
jumped, Cincinnati jumped, the Mariners jumped. Yeah,
everybody but us.
Oh, and I do have one last one for this series as well. Logan Webb is currently tied for the strikeout lead in the National League. And the 2 guys he's up against have started their last game of the season. So Logan Webb gets 1 strikeout in his next start, and he will be the strikeout leader in the National League. He will pass Jesus Luzardo and Paul Skeens.
If he doesn't get that strikeout, I'm going to get a DM from him.
Another one.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Another good thing to look out for is somebody mentioned in the comment section. I don't know why we didn't. Let's see Bryce get that first home run out the way. Yeah, there we go.
Yep, that's another good one.
100% agree. Yeah, I think the only, you know, I'd like to see JV get a win, like Dan mentioned. I'd like to see, I'd like to see Webb have a really nice finish to his season. I'd love to see Willie find a way to pull 2 homers out. Rafi getting his first splash hit would have been on my list. Glad he got it out of the way. On an absolute moonshot. I mean, I'm sorry, a 43-degree launch angle.
Yeah, dude.
I think I posted it yesterday. I'm surprised that ball didn't burn up into orbit when it was coming back down. So that would be nice. Bryce getting 1 out of the way would be really nice to see. I'd like to see him have a nice, 4 hits or so, 4 or 5 hits this weekend, maybe get the average up around 200, have a nice, just solid finish to the year would be cool. I'll throw one out there. Ricky, you messaged us about this when I did the math yesterday. If Casey can find a way to go like 6 for 12, he'll finish at 250 with his average on the season. So that would be a cool one to see. Yeah, I mean, there's not really, fortunately, just enjoy it, guys. It's baseball. I mean, as frustrating as the team is, it's the last baseball we're going to get for, 6 months. So just going to enjoy the last couple days of it. Do you guys want to do the Willie Mac kind of predictions now, or do we want to push that to the back end?
I think we can do that now. Yeah, because we're looking forward to this upcoming series. We can definitely do that now.
Yeah. All right, so I had kind of, and I texted these guys those names, but I had 3 names that I feel like are possible, because for the first time in a while, I feel like this one's very up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, Chapman was obvious last season. The year prior, Wilmer Flores with that insane 23 homers or whatever he hit, everyone knew it was going to Wilmer. I think 22 was Lamont, or no, 21 was Lamont.
21 was Lamont. Webb. 22 is Webby.
Yeah, 22 was pretty obvious it was going to be Webb. Lamont was one that I felt was a little up in the air, but just kind of the way that award is oftentimes like a, not necessarily the biggest name. It's a lot of times if a kind of a journeyman style player has a great year, they get it. This feels like one of those years where you could get a Lamont type player, or you can get somebody that really didn't have like a statistically fantastic year. You look at a guy like Nick Hundley back in 2017. that could just sneak up and grab it. So, I mean, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I know Eric says Adamas here. Who do you guys think is going to get it?
To me, we kind of talked about it, but there's three names that come to mind immediately, which, like Eric mentions, Willie Adamas is probably going to be the favorite, I would imagine. The second option I could see going to Dom Smith, as we've talked about. And then, yeah, that's yours. And then third, I think we briefly mentioned it the other day, Jung Hoo. That's a name that could be thrown out there. All in all, he had a pretty solid year, but Wilmer Flores is not the sneaky pick. Don't put that evil on me. But those are probably the three that you can most likely see. I think I saw a couple names float around on X, like Christian Koss could be a maybe. I don't know how realistic that's going to be, but if I was a betting man, which I'm not going to say I am because I live in California, I would say, yeah, I'm glad you guys caught that. I would say Willie Adamas for sure.
Yeah. I think Koss is like a dark horse.
Yeah.
Like he had like a really nice year, and he's like that gritty type player that I could see being super popular. But yeah, I still wouldn't pick him.
No.
I'm going to go Wilmer Flores.
No, don't. I saw you I saw you trying not to laugh.
I don't know why. I just feel like they're going to take the opportunity to use that as his send-off, since they've been just letting him waste at bats for the last month and a half. And it'll be an opportunity to have a really funny end of the season. So I think it's going to be Wilmer Flores.
They're gonna ship the award. They're gonna like act like they're about to pull someone out, and then they're gonna go, all right, now we're cutting to Kansas City where Mike Yastrzemski won the award. It's not even with the team anymore.
Oh my god.
No, yeah. I think on account of standing up for his team and himself in XDMs, Logan Webb's gonna win it again. No, Adamas is probably that'd be my guess. I think he would be the favorite, but it feels pretty up in the air. Nobody really stands out. I mean, what I could actually see. You know who actually another dark horse I'm going to throw out there that everyone's going to forget about because he's hurt. I could see Randy Rodriguez winning it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Pulled an all-star year. I mean, yeah, he got hurt at the end, but he took a huge leap this season in performance. I hadn't even thought about him because of the fact that he's hurt, but actually that's a guy that I could see. And he would not be there because apparently he just had his Tommy John surgery.
Yeah. Bro can't even lift up the trophy.
Dude's just like on morphine. High as a kite doing it, trying to give a statement.
They could do Tom Murphy just for staying away from the team. And then they just zoom in on him just chilling on his couch.
Sitting next to his lawyer.
Forgot about that stupid thing.
We're trying to keep you happy so you don't sue us. Here's the Willie Mack Award.
Nobody actually voted for you, but we're doing it out of pity.
Walker walking away with it. Yeah.
Oh man.
I was reading that comment. Yeah, that one.
Please get on the line and contact Buster. Can we sign Ranger Suarez, Robert Suarez, Tyler Rogers, Bo Bichette, trade Wiz, Bo Davidson, Schmidt for Quan? Holy crap, that'd be a haul for Quan.
Imagine.
I mean, that would be you'd change the whole look of your lineup, but I just don't see any way they're gonna. That's a lot of money that you're putting out there and a lot of prospect haul. I mean, I can see some of that, but I don't think you'd be seeing the entirety of that.
And the Guardians had said before that they want pretty much a major league outfielder. if they're going to trade Quan. That's what they've been pretty consistent in saying. So it'd be pretty likely that the Giants would have to get rid of one of their 3 current, everyday outfielders, whether it be Lee, Ramos, or Gilbert, and probably wouldn't be Lee because they're not going to want to take on his money and get rid of Quan, who's on a much more affordable deal.
And they can't get rid of Gilbert because they need a player that likes to get choked.
And that humps dugout railings.
That too.
All right, I'm making my quick notes on what we need to fix on this team here because I did not write it down ahead of time. But we're gonna jump into that.
I made my post the other day. I had everything. I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you.
Tell me if I'm wrong on any of these suggestions, you guys.
Yeah, bear with me, people.
Do you guys see us signing or trading for a big free agent starter for the rotation? We will get to that, Nate. We will get to that.
We are about to jump. We're about to jump into all that.
Mark says Chapman chokes enough for everyone. Only with runners in scoring position, Mark.
Yeah, why would Adames take the extra baser with Chapman coming up?
Yeah, see?
Come on,
Stay on first base.
Some awareness. You got Barry Bonds in the dugout if he's hitting on, if there's a runner on first, but you got Bailey in the on deck circle if he's on second.
Nick, I don't see any world where JV stays. I think he's kind of fed up. So this was my post, you guys. And tell me what part of this you think is incorrect. So I think the Giants need to address the starting rotation, preferably get like a 2 or 3 or even both starting pitcher. Some bullpen help, especially with, how Ryan Walker just turned into dog water. Outfield upgrade if possible, and or depth, bench depth, right-handed backup catcher, new beat writers, new City Connects and or fix the existing City Connects, and a new slogan because I can't stand another year of hearing nothing like it. So those are my suggestions.
Who put it? Oh, maybe it was in the group chat where I saw it, but someone was like, I've never heard that slogan used in a non-sarcastic manner.
That was Ariel.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
So accurate. Like, no one thinks it's a serious slogan. It's so bad.
I don't know. I feel like back in the day, the Giants used to have a new slogan every single year, and that's when they were good. And then it's like, I don't know what makes you think you're going to do a good job marketing the team when you're running back the same tired slogan for, 3 mediocre 500-ish seasons in a row. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. You remember how the Raiders on their banner had the commitment to excellence, which was I always found ironic given how they played for like 20 years. But the Giants need to just hang one that just says commitment to mid. That can be their slogan.
See, my idea was something similar to that. It was like a playoff of the Niners slogan, the Quest for 6, except it's Quest for 500.
Quest for 82.
Quest for 82, see? Yeah.
Oh, man. It's brutal. Yeah, okay, so what I've written down, which is basic, it's very similar to what you put out there. 2 or 3 starting pitchers. And now, okay, keep in mind, everyone, some of these might be filled internally. I'm not suggesting that you just give up on everything you have internally and you don't, those aren't part of the solution. That's factored into this. But 2 to 3 starting pitchers, approximately 3/4 of your bullpen, right-handed catcher, right field for sure. I have left field and second base with question marks next to them because, as we're going to discuss here in a little bit, I think those are spots that for the right player, you might move off of what you have, but you're not necessarily like actively looking to move off those guys. And then I just wrote bench because realistically, you're going to probably lose Wilmer Flores, which, I mean, that needs to happen. Outfield depth has been very hit or miss all season. Matos was not a great fit to be a 4th outfielder. I kind of feel better about Gilbert as a 4th outfielder potentially, but I digress. Then catcher, obviously Kisner was a problem. Huff was a problem. everybody we've had there next to Bailey. I mean, hell, Bailey was a problem for half the year or 5/6 of the year. So catcher, you need to upgrade there. Infield, I actually feel pretty decent about what we have on the bench there, but you're also going to need to fill because you're usually going to have 5 guys on the bench or 4 guys on the bench because I guess someone's going to DH if you have Bryce and Rafi. One's going to DH, one will play first if Bryce is up. So I mean, you're looking at you've got Koss probably, and then you're going to need to figure out a 4th outfielder, a catcher, and then some kind of utility, whatever it could. I mean, that could be a spot where you look at a guy like Dom Smith if you can get him back, although I think he's going to get a bigger role elsewhere. But I mean, the bench as a whole needs to be upgraded. So that's what I've got. A whole lot of pitching, right field, and then a couple maybe spots, and then the bench. I think all of that is like desperately needs to be addressed. And then the biggest need of all, a new manager. Like that should be the top of the list. Like that's something they can address right out the gate. And I made the joke yesterday because they're going to have a whole bunch of former Willie Mack award winners. And y'all know who one of my favorites that I would love to see get the job that I've mentioned many times. And I've already mentioned him on this show once, and that's Nick Hundley. And supposedly they said he is going to be in attendance tomorrow, which I don't think is a complete nothing considering he's currently employed by the Rangers in their front office. So it's a little odd that he's going to be attending the Willie Mack Award, where he has not come in many recent years. He was not there last season for sure. He obviously wasn't there the years when he was playing after he left the Giants. So I find it a little interesting that he's going to be attending that tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the upgrades go to the roster, I do think probably half of those things get filled internally. I honestly think Jesus Rodriguez is going to give every shot at filling the backup catcher role. He's kind of on the fringe of the big leagues right now. He's with the team already, they have him catching pens and getting familiar with the pitchers. So kind of giving him a leg up on anybody else that they will bring in as like a third catcher in spring training. And then that way he'll have a little bit of a rapport, at least with, some of the mainstays in the bullpen and then a few of the guys in the rotation. As far as the bullpen goes, I also think a lot of that will be internal. I don't see them going out and spending big money on a big name reliever. I could see them definitely still bringing back Tyler Rogers as a 7th or 8th inning guy. But I don't see them spending big money on a closer. I think that's just going to be kind of up in the air as they get through spring training and somebody kind of takes ownership of that. But I think you're going to see some guys get brought back too. Like I think Joey Lucchese's probably played himself into the second lefty in the pen. We do have to remember Eric Miller will be coming back next season. So we won't have Randy Rodriguez, but you will have Eric Miller back. Buto is almost for sure going to be back. So you look at, there's a few guys probably on your back end right there. And then, guys like Spencer Bivens are probably pretty close to a lock to come back. And then you're really looking at just 2 or 3 guys. And those could be filled with guys that have been down in SAC that are, starter depth in the minors that they may convert to the pen like they did with Landon Roop and Hayden Birdsong. So I really only think they're going to make like 1 or 2 actual free agent acquisitions, and then the rest is going to be internal. Now, as far as the lineup goes, I think you have to improve at 2 spots in the lineup. Now, whether that's right field, left field, second base, wherever it is, I think they have to improve at 2 spots one way or another. And I mean, it's very possible that they end up bringing in a whole new coaching staff and decide to run it back. But I think they've got to at least get an outfielder and then consider bringing in a utility guy via trade or free agency and try to raise the floor of the lineup, because right now the lineup is just extremely one-dimensional. And, you know, all fans have been saying it for the last 2-3 months now, but you have one guy that gets hot for 2 weeks max and then goes cold for 2 months, and then the next guy does it. And it's just an endless cycle where your lineup has no, you know, spark to it at all throughout the season. You're just hoping like hell that, you know, that one guy can get you through a series at a time. So they need some guys that can make better quality contact and hit the ball harder, fit the park a little bit more. You have some power guys in the middle of the lineup that you can rely on, but you absolutely need a higher average guy that you can throw in the top of the lineup. They don't seem to believe that Jung-Hoo Lee is that guy because they are pretty adamant about keeping him down in the 7 hole for the most part, or the lower half of the lineup. So, and, you know, we've seen how he was all year. He was very inconsistent. So I think you need somebody to fill that role, because when Jung-Hoo Lee was right, the team would start rolling again. But when he's not right, the offense just absolutely shits the bed and kills the team. So I think you're looking at 2 upgrades in the lineup.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is, like, they need 2 upgrades in the lineup. One of them might have just debuted. Like, Bryce very well might be one of those guys. So they might only externally need one. And I mean, and if you get Jesus, and I'm not gonna really count this, but if Jesus does take that right-handed half of the catcher platoon, and he ends up being a pretty solid hitter, you could kind of view that as like a partial upgrade, you know, because I mean, he's still not the everyday guy, but that would possibly help a little bit against lefties. But yeah, I mean, the team, Bryce could end up being one of those, but they absolutely have to bring in an everyday guy somewhere and upgrade. And whether that's, you know, whether that's right field is probably the easiest one, which if you're going to do right field, you could realistically go after center or right if you can get a high-end defender. You know, because you could theoretically bump Lee over to right field if you need to. But yeah, you can. Right field's probably the easiest spot. But you know, to Ricky's point, like, they might be sick of what they've seen out of Ramos this year. That would not surprise me. I'm not quite at that point. I have gotten a lot closer to that point. I would like to see him play with a real manager that will hold him accountable. I'd like to see if I pulled the numbers with these guys yesterday, where if you pull Ramos's defensive metrics from last season, in the corner specifically, because we're going to throw out center field. We all know he's not a center fielder, but he was a above average like corner outfielder in basically the equivalent of about 52 games worth of innings, where he was worth, I think, like 4 outs above average. His fielding run value was like 4. His defensive run save was like 6. And I mean, that's a big sample size, 52 games. And then this season, he's just a complete butcher. So it's like, I wonder if it's just like completely mental with him, which I do think impacted his hitting in the second half. But I get it. If they're tired of him, they might just decide to move on and get somebody more, you know, reliable. It'll suck if Ramos goes elsewhere and turns into a star again. But, you know, that's the risk you run. Or second, you know, we've talked about Casey a lot. I think Casey has potential to be a really solid player. But if they're going to go get a Xavier Edwards or someone like that, that's going to be expensive. He'd be hard to pull in. But if you can get a guy like that, you kind of have to trade him. You know, at that point, like, yeah, as much as I love Casey, like, you're going to end up moving him if you can get a guy like Xavier Edwards or possibly even Brendan Donovan. Although because we were going to talk about Donovan later. For anybody that's wondering, he has played 1,245 innings in left field in his career, and he is basically an average left fielder. And he's a slightly above average second base and defensively. So, you know, you could get a guy like Brendan Donovan, and it does not necessarily mean Casey's the guy that goes. They could be like, we're going to take him, we'll put him in left, Ramos gets traded. You know, there's options in this case, but they're going to have to figure it out with the lineup. They got to get somebody in here that can help, both offensively and defensively, if you're looking at the outfield.
I mean, there's a there's a real simple solution here as far as what they can do where you can kind of maximize a couple positions at once. If you want to go that route where you want to pursue an outfielder, depending on who's either available in free agency or in the trade market, you can go at it one or two ways. You can target a corner outfielder and then slide Ramos more into that right-handed DH role / like a fourth outfielder, however you want to go about that. Or you can go after a center fielder, slide Jung-Hoo Lee into one of the corners where his defense is probably going to be improved. You can go at it a couple different ways, but right now, just looking at, one of the black holes that's been in the lineup for the majority of the season is that right-handed DH spot in the lineup. So, obviously, Ramos is still, super solid with the bat. It's the defense that lacks. And with Wilmer departing, why not pursue an outfield upgrade and slide Elliot Ramos more into that right-handed DH role, especially when Zach Maniason had those comments come out today where, Bryce Eldridge isn't a given to be on the roster come opening day. Okay, you're going to have a hole in DH, possibly, if they're going to start Bryce and Zach for the year. Obviously, I don't want that. I told you guys, if it's up to me from day one, you're just going to, have Devers and Bryce just split time between first base and DH on a daily basis. But if that's the route that they want to go, slide Ramos into the right-handed DH role and go upgrade the outfield. You can get creative here. It's not like you're tied to, okay, there's only one position in the outfield that we need to upgrade. No, if you want to slide Jung-Hoo Lee around, go ahead. If you want to keep Jung-Hoo in center and focus on one of the corners, go ahead. You can go at it a couple different ways, and it can improve the lineup as a whole. By filling in that DH spot potentially, depending on what they want to do with Bryce. So I would go at it one of those ways. If you can get a guy, you don't even need somebody that's, a power hitter per se. If you can get somebody to make solid contact and that has speed, which is something this team is desperately lacking, and it has shown for the past 2 seasons. If you're able to get somebody that can kind of fill that gap, then cool. You can maybe do what Ricky was mentioning, slide them towards the top of the lineup. Get that legitimate threat to lead off and then open up opportunities for the heart of your lineup. There's really a few ways they can go about this.
Yeah, George, I don't think any of us are saying they're going to trade Lee. It doesn't really make sense because of his contract. And he really at this point is just a slightly above average offensive player right now. And while I don't think it totally matches the eye test, his defensive metrics weren't great in the outfield and center field this year either. But I think some of that has to do with the overall outfield situation this year. But my biggest thing with this offseason is they need to fully commit hardcore in one direction because they don't have the excuse of being capped by the tax this year. So they really need to go hard towards one direction instead of going half towards, we're going to prioritize pitching and defense, and half towards we're going to prioritize hitting at certain positions. Because the thing is they act like pitching and defense is, what they're going to lean on because of the park, and the product on the field says completely different. You've got Chapman, you've got Bailey, you've got Gilbert, or just whoever you want to plug in right field, where they're saying, we're worried about the defense. We're not worried about the offensive production. And yes, I know Chapman's an above average offensive player over there, but the way they're using him is so awful compared to what he's actually putting out offensively. Having a guy hitting cleanup with a 198 batting average with runners in scoring position is just madness. You've got to figure that out, because on one end, you're committing fully to those 3 guys or those 3 positions on the field being defense first players, but then you're not getting the trade-off on the other side of it with guys like Ramos, who are supposed to, be okay defensively, but giving you the plus with the bat. You know what I mean? It's like you're not getting a good enough offensive production out of that position to warrant the defense. So they've either got to figure out, is this a coaching issue or is this an issue with the player? And they've got to go hardcore one way or the other. They can't afford to keep playing around. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting stuck in the mud with an extremely expensive roster that is going to be stuck at 81 wins every year. Yeah. And then going on the pitching side of it, like they've got to hardcore upgrade the staff, because once again, year after year, they say they have all this pitching depth, and then they get stuck in a spot where everybody runs out of gas, and the guys that are supposed to be there as depth are not good enough depth. And you're relying way too much on guys that are far exceeding their career innings totals. And you have all these guys in the same boat. So where I'm kind of at this offseason is going at least get one veteran starting pitcher in free agency to fill Verlander's role. And now you got the top 3 spots locked up, and then go and get another guy via trade. Whether it's a high-end guy like Freddie Peralta or whoever it may be, you need to start trading from some of that starting pitching depth you have in the minors, because there is potential there between, Tidwell, Roop at the major league level, Birdsong, Wizenhunt. You have numerous guys there that are good trade bait and haven't lost their value yet. You have to trade from some of that depth. Otherwise, what are you stockpiling all this for? Because yes, you do have to look 2-3 years down the road as well, but you also got to trade from some of that before those guys' value craps out, and then you're stuck with nothing there. You gotta make use of the resources you have.
Yeah. I mean, and Manassian said something today when they were asking him about reworking the bullpen. He made a comment that I think all 3 of us just went hallelujah when we read it, and that was, he finally mentioned, is it time to start looking at some of these young prospects in Sacramento that they've been trying to develop as starters forever as bullpen arms? You got the Trevor McDonald's. I mean, Birdsong, I'm not at that point, but we also saw what he did as a reliever early in the year. And if the team came out and just were like, you know what, we don't think this command, they obviously have access to way more data than I do, but it's like, if they decide we don't think he's going to ever figure out the command enough to be a consistent starter, but he could be a dominant reliever, then I'm all for it. Go that route, commit to it. Like that's to Ricky's point, like commit to directions with all these players, with the team, all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, that could be part of the solution there. You could trade from some of these guys. Like they've got a lot of young pitching talent in the lower levels too, where you have guys like Kayama and Bresnahan, Bostic. Charlie McDaniel had a really solid year. Rademacher had a solid year. Whitman still has value. De La Torre, Keener Martinez. I mean, I could just go on and on. There's a ton of young pitching talent down in the lower levels that teams would covet. So they have guys that have value to make these deals, and you got to do it before these guys lose that value.
And it doesn't just have to be for proven starting pitching. It can be for outfield help too, because the reality is, a guy like Bo Davidson, for example, in the system, he is more than likely not going to be ready to contribute at the big league level this season. You're probably looking at 2027 for him, where you might actually see him play a significant amount at the big league level. So, if you can trade, a couple of those young starting pitchers that are already like on the cusp of the big leagues or have already appeared in the big leagues, like most of those guys we mentioned have, trade a couple of those guys and get a proven outfielder. And I'm not saying just 2 of those guys alone is going to get you somebody legit, but pair them with somebody, maybe even like a Drew Gilbert if you can. I know he's not proven at the big league level, but he is a guy that has shown he's ready to play in the big leagues. He just clearly needs more time to adjust with the bat.
Yeah. His defense has been really nice. Like, I want to give him credit for that, and I would feel very good about him as a 4th outfielder next season. I would not feel good about it if they're starting him in right field from the get-go, but if he's your 4th outfielder, I'd be feeling pretty good about it. And then maybe he plays his way into a bigger role if they go get I'm just going to throw a name out there. If they went and got like a Trent Grisham type, and maybe Gilbert ends up taking that job eventually. But right now, that's kind of how I view him.
Yeah, one way or another, they got to raise that floor, man. Because, like I said, you've got 3 pretty subpar positions in the lineup that are really hurting them getting into a rhythm offensively. They've got to get some guys that are going to be higher floor, because another full season worth of, whether it's like a Yaz, a Gilbert, a Matos, like you just can't keep running that out for a full season, especially if you're getting a 5-something OPS out of Bailey for pretty much the whole season until September. And like I said, if you're getting Chapman in there with, good production, but also not contributing with runners in scoring position, you got to lower him down, and you got to get somebody that can fill, like, say, that 2-hole or the leadoff spot. Because I think Ramos did fine in the leadoff spot, and that's something he could grow into if they do keep him around. But you've at least got to get a more contact oriented line drive hitter, like what we want Lee to be. Lee obviously has done a good job keeping the strikeouts down a ton. I think he's only at like a 10 or 11% K rate. But, I mean, he spent like 3 months of the season, just straight up pulling the ball, rolling over to second base, and hitting weak fly balls to left field. So you got to have somebody else there. And then that should definitely help kind of reset the lineup a little bit more.
And to James' point there, I feel like they're probably at their cap on how many defense first guys they can handle. Yeah, I mean, someone mentioned Grisham is kind of in that super streaky hitter, defense first category. That would not be my first choice, but I'm using him as an example because, quite frankly, if you look at what's out there on the free agent market for outfielders, it's not good. You've got basically Kyle Tucker, you have Cody Bellinger, and then you have a whole lot of guys in the Trent Grisham category that are either deeply flawed defensively and can hit a little bit, or they're deeply flawed offensively and can defend quite a bit. So, I mean, that's kind of your option. And it's pretty hard at outfield in particular. It's pretty hard for them to go hard on a, offensive first butcher in the outfield when you've already been struggling greatly with your outfield defense for many years now, it feels like. So they're in kind of a tough spot where I don't feel like they can really afford many more, completely defensive oriented guys. But that's kind of what's out there at the moment. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, when you have guys like Willie and Devers too, who have, high K rates and are extremely streaky, you can't really afford that. Everybody says, oh, you can afford the defense, but it's like, where are we getting that logic from when we see the product on the field, 2.5 years straight of, bottom 5, bottom 10 offensive production in the entire MLB? You just can't keep running that out. You got to have something solidified. I mean, that's part of why they finally had to move on from Yaz, other than where they were at the trade deadline, is because you can't continue to have these guys who are extremely inconsistent. You're never going to get into a flow offensively unless you have like a Devers just go bonkers for 2 months straight. Then obviously that changes everything. But they've definitely got to figure that out. And I mean, I feel like you saw a little bit of that in their draft strategy this year, where they're looking to a lot more contact oriented, line drive driven type hitters. But I do think they're going to make that an emphasis this offseason. And yeah. I think they're going to be a lot more aggressive on the trade market, like they were with Devers, for instance.
Yeah. And I'm pulling this comment up really quick because I have seen a ton of people bring up Stephen Kwan in the chat today. The Cleveland Guardians are about to make the playoffs. So unless I'm thinking I mean, there. I guess there's an outside chance Houston could sneak in as a wild card over either Detroit or Cleveland, but it looks like Cleveland's about to make the playoffs, more than likely. Why would they trade Quan? I mean, and I guess I guess the other side of things are they did just make the ALCS last season, and they did trade Josh Naylor right afterward. So I guess that is the elephant in the room. Like maybe they would consider it, but I don't think Quan. Number one, Quan still has 2 seasons left, whereas Naylor was on his final season. And the second thing is, I don't think Quan's going to be as expensive as Naylor, just in general. So
they're just a team they're just a team like Baltimore in general, though. They're just not going to pay guys, plain and simple. Like Jose Ramirez, I mean, was involved in trade talks, and the only reason why they really even were able to bring him back is because he didn't care. He wanted to stay there, and he took an extremely team-friendly deal to stay there. So, I mean, maybe Quan does the same thing, but I wouldn't bank on them paying him is the main reason.
But they're also not a team that usually trades guys 2 years prior. Like they're not the Orioles or the Marlins or the A's where they go, oh, you've reached ARB 2. We're going to ship you off to somebody and maximize value. They're more willing to hold a guy until the last year if they think they're contending. So
yeah,
that's why
sure.
I don't see Quan going, especially after this run they went on. Like I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they're going to do their normal. We're going to try and shop around. Phil, they got their Travis, is it Bazana? He's in AAA. I know he's not been great, but like they've got some guys that are getting close. I could see them hanging on to Quan for another year. So that I don't think that one's that realistic this offseason.
It's wishful thinking.
Yes, Birdsong is struggling, but we're not. I don't think we're overrating them. Our point is that a lot of these guys need to be transitioned to relievers instead of starters. I think Tidwell's the only guy up in the upper levels I feel pretty decent about as a starter right now.
And we're completely excluding Root too.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing from that statement, though, is we were emphasizing the talent in the lower levels. All those guys that are being mentioned in that comment are in SAC.
Yeah. Yeah. When have we praised the guys that we mentioned? Yeah, not much recently, that's for sure. I think Wisenhunt's a guy that I think could be pretty solid as a reliever because if the guys can only face his changeup one time, that's going to do a lot of work for him. He greatly needs to improve his fastball movement or velocity or both. Some of these other guys, I've said McDonald several times, that slider, that's a high-end out pitch. And you can combine that with the sinker, which I know they were comparing his sinker movement to what Logan Webb does. I think you can put him in like a 2-inning relief role. He'd be really solid if you commit to it. He's a starter that has these occasional great outings like we saw versus the Dodgers, but incredibly inconsistent, struggles to keep the ball in the yard. I see it, and it's great to see, and it was awesome that he had that start against the Dodgers, but I've watched it for years now. Like, I don't expect him to like just keep stacking those outings is the problem. So I would prefer him being in the pen. Mason Black, I mean, the pen has got to be the last resort for him at this point. He's just not a starter. He's proven that. And Birdsong is just the wild card. I mean, like I said, he showed what he can do out of the pen, but he just ever since the air quote leaders on this team and the vets on this team made a 23-year-old throw at a dude against Miami, he just can't find. He's got like the yips throwing strikes. I don't know what it is, but he's lost control of every pitch in his arsenal, and he's got to figure that out badly if he's going to have even a major league role next season. Otherwise, he's going to be down in SAC a lot until he figures out how to throw strikes again.
Yeah. Just want to address this really quick. Rob, wishful thinking, you said the same about Devers. Did you really think if, it's April or May that somebody told you, hey, you can trade James Tibbs and Kyle Harrison and get Rafael Devers? Would you really think that'd be realistic? That is the definition of wishful thinking, my friend. And we are beyond blessed that we're able to fleece Boston the way that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you guys right now, if we propose that exact trade in front of you guys about getting Devers, you guys would have thought we were smoking some good shit. Because, like, I don't know, when I first saw that trade come through, I'm like, okay, I don't care about any of these dudes except for Tibbs. So, and even then, I mean, Tibbs for a proven all-star hitter that can hit 35 bombs in a season, I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
Nobody is sweating that one.
Yeah, and you know the other elephant in the room on that whole Devers situation was, and I know Boston media was clearly spinning it one way to kind of make him to be the bad guy there, but there was a lot of questions on whether or not he was going to even be willing to play first or any of that stuff or play or DH or it was one of those, hey, let's bring him in to do something that he's saying I'm not willing to do to Boston. And you totally get why he's not doing it he didn't do it for Boston, given that they literally told him to throw his glove in the garbage. So like, I get the disrespect that happened, but I could see, back then it was like, are they going to try and do the same thing as Boston? And how's that going to go? But yeah, and listen, I'm not saying it's impossible to trade for Quan. I'm saying I don't think Cleveland is going to be willing to deal him this offseason. Deadline might be a different story. I think as of right now, they're not going to move him in the offseason just because that's kind of their MO and how they operate. But if they do take calls, I wouldn't put it past Posey to make that deal happen.
For sure.
Yeah. So, couple other guys. You guys have some targets on guys you'd like to see. I know we kind of briefly talked about if we're going to look at the offensive side. We talked about Brendan Donovan. I put a tweet out yesterday and said he would look really good in a Giants uniform 2026. As I kind of brought up earlier, that would mean the end of probably either Ramos or Schmidt in San Francisco, two guys that I like a lot, but one would have to go, and it's a different offensive profile. Totally could see one of those guys, getting the, I would love to see Donovan, come over here because he's hit 280 plus like each of the last 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely consistent.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is a guy that we've all said we want to see for a while. This is not just recency bias of, hey, this guy shows up to San Francisco and just belt to ass as the Giants for a series. I mean, he does that every season, it seems like, but he's just a good hitter year round, and he's super consistent. He's going to hit you, he's not going to hit a ton of power. He'll hit 10 to 15 homers. But he barrels a lot of balls. Like, it's not like he's a slap hitter. Just doesn't hit a ton of homers, and that's totally fine in this yard. Does not steal a ton, but he's a solid defender. But when you're talking about needing more just pure hitters, he fits that mold.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, he's just a guy, when we're talking about somebody that's not going to go into these deep funks where you just might as well chalk it up as an O for that night for, a month and a half straight. He's going to consistently be there. So it just gives you an extra layer of security when you have that one other guy in the middle of your order hot hitting behind him. You have that guy that's just constantly getting on base, putting ducks on the pond for those guys like, Devers, Willie, and even Chapman when he gets hot. So, a guy like that, and then one other guy, even if it's not some big name guy, they absolutely need to find those kind of guys to add in. You just have too many guys hitting like the low 700s for their OPS, hitting, a low, 230 batting average and just okay power. You just can't have too much more of that because that's how you're getting into these deep funks in the middle of the summer every single year.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
James says, want to see a new catcher, especially the robo zone. Keep in mind, it is not a full ABS strike zone. So, as much as you guys know, we would love to move off of that. He's still going to have value with his framing. He's going to lose some of it. Like it does nerf that value a little bit, but it is not going to just completely go down the tank. Unless teams are ballsy enough to challenge every close pitch and just keep hitting them, it's not going to completely remove that value because you do have to be a little bit selective with pitches you challenge. For those of you that don't know how the ABS system works and haven't watched a ton of like AAA ball, teams essentially get 2 bad challenges. You know, if you just kind of like you can challenge an out safe or any of that stuff. With that case, you get 1. If you challenge and you're wrong, you lose it. If you hit, you can keep your challenge. It's the same thing with the ABS, but you can lose twice before you're out. So it's not going to completely remove the value. I think somebody tracked the data, mentioned that, about 20% of pitches out of the zone were challenged on the year. I don't know now the problem with this is I don't know when they pull that number, if it's 20% of total pitches out of the zone were challenged in AAA, or if it's like 20% in the, like, what do they call it? That shadow box, like that fringe area, the 50-50 zone. I don't know how they measured that, but they did say it's like 20% that got challenged and overturned. So is it going to only lessen his impact by 20%? I don't know, but it is going to have an impact for sure.
NorCal fan, why would the Cards trade Donovan? They have 2 years of club control left. Well, look at the Cardinals situation. They're an absolute disaster. They're a team with no direction. They're a team with 0 pitching. And what do the Giants have to offer? Pitching. So he does not fit the timeline on that team whatsoever. They desperately need to commit to getting younger. Donovan's, I believe, 28 years old. So it makes a ton of sense. I mean, he's been involved in trade rumors since early last season. So, it absolutely makes sense for them to trade him. I mean, their whole pitching staff is an absolute nightmare. They were bottom 5 in team ERA all season. So,
yeah, that's why the situations are different when you're comparing like a Donovan and a Quan based on the teams that they're on. One's a playoff contender who's about to go and possibly win their division now, and one's the Cardinals with literally no sense of direction. So,
yeah, Rob, again, to the point, like 1 year, it doesn't matter. If you don't want to call that a rental, that's fine, but 1 year is still where they move these guys. He has 2. So, however you want to look at it, it doesn't matter. That's the point. So, but we can keep dreaming for him. That's fine.
Yeah, none of us would be opposed if they somehow made a Stephen Kwan deal possible. It's just we got to be kind of realistic about it.
Yeah, he moves these, like they move these guys. We're all acknowledging that. They just move them at 1 year, not 2. Typically. Bingo. So I think the Giants are going to have to like blow their socks off if they're going to get that deal done. Not impossible. Maybe they do that. But yeah, I don't see it happening. That's my entire point here. I don't see that trade happening.
And that's why we say deadline is the most realistic.
Yeah, I could see the deadline. I just don't think Cleveland is willing to make the deal yet. So, can we name some younger pitchers at lower levels that might attract trade attention? I kind of briefly shot through all of them earlier, but just that are on their top 30, for instance, you've got Kayama, Bresnahan, De La Torre, Bostic. Actually, he fell off the top, but I'll still count him. Keener Martinez. There's a few guys in the Dominican. De La Rosa, one of the guys they got in the Doval trade. Ricky, am I forgetting anybody in the lower levels? Yes,
not
Whitman, but that's Double-A.
Yeah, no, not really in the lower levels. I mean, Frone is another name to keep an eye on. He had a really dominant season with San Jose, went up to Eugene, struggled a little bit, but then started to gain a little momentum before the end of the year. So there's a plethora of names. That's definitely a strength in the system. There's a handful of guys between AA and AAA. There's a couple guys that got moved up to SAC at the end of the year. And then the normal names you guys all know between Tidwell, Birdsong, Root, Wizenhunt. We were never mentioning Mason Black and those guys. I mean, Mason Black should not be even considered a part of their top prospects. I mean, I think us three have kind of agreed on that for like a year and a half now, that he's just completely fallen off the wagon. So, yeah, there's plenty of names out there. None of these guys are going to be like huge centerpieces necessarily to a trade, unless you're talking, some of the guys that we've seen at the big league level. But
yeah. Got a couple we're going to run through in the comments. What do we do with first two? Devers, Smith, Eldridge. I think, unfortunately, because I really like him, I think Dom Smith is probably going to be the guy that heads elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think, to Dan's point earlier, Manassian made some comments on Bryce, and frankly, I think none of them hold any weight. And when I say that, I mean, I think it was just sidestepping the question, kind of. Like, I mean, he's not going to come out and say today, he's our first baseman next year on opening day, or he's our opening day. He's not going to do that with a 20-year-old. They're going to sit there, unless he had dominated, or he came up a month or two ago, dominated the rest of the season, and it was like, yeah, this guy's a major leaguer right now. They're not going to come out and just say, like, he's going to be the guy. So I felt like it was like, oh, he could be, he might not be, he might need more time, he might be good, ready to go, he might, we'll see. He's going to make him compete, and hopefully Bryce comes out and wins the job in spring training. But I think right now the favorite would need to be Devers and Eldridge playing first base and DH, and I would love to have Dom Smith back, kind of playing that Wilmer role, like a way toned down version of the Wilmer role, as meaning I think he'd be incredibly valuable as a pinch hitter late in games and a bat off the bench. But you kind of take away a lot of his value if you're not going to let him play first, like, at all. And I think he's going to get an opportunity elsewhere to get regular playing time, and he'll leave.
That's the biggest piece right there. I think he was too good for us this year, and his limited playing time, that he's going to earn a job with a team that's going to give him, a bag, so to speak, to let him produce for them. I just don't see a realistic chance that he's on the roster next year. I wish. I mean, I wanted Tom Smith when he was DFA'd from New York, and he turned out to be great for us, but no, I just can't see it, man.
Yeah. I could definitely see this if you just go off pure stuff.
Kaner?
Yeah. His stuff's nasty. He's got like 4 legit pitches, and he can throw strikes. It's he's got gross stuff. Mm-hmm. The only thing Kayama has going for him versus the other guys is the age, because he's 18. So he's a much less finished product. But yeah. Let's see. I feel like we had others. Oh, I did want to share this because we did want to talk a little bit about Bryce's performance and what we've seen out of him before we get, before we really wrap this up. What did you guys think of what you've seen out of Bryce? It's only 30 plate appearances. It's an ultra small sample size. The numbers are going to be what the numbers are going to be. But what do you guys think overall of what you've seen?
I mean, for the most part, it's to be expected. I mean, he's working great at bats. He's making hard contact when he hits the ball. Hasn't really had much luck. Obviously, he's got 2 doubles. And he's going to strike out a decent amount of times just due to his size. I mean, that's pretty much what we expected to see. I mean, I wanted to see some, more hits get down, but I can't complain when he's hitting the ball 108 and it's getting caught at 405 feet in center field, and Arizona. I mean, not much you can really do there. So overall, I think it's just good for him to get the exposure more than anything. And yeah, look at these, man. Like
the batted ball metrics, it's a super small sample. Like I'm
yeah,
just gonna massive disclaimer over that. But the thing I like is he's not chasing, he's drawing walks, and when he hits it, he hits the piss out of it.
exactly.
So, yes, he swings and misses a little bit. Obviously a lot more than you really want, but that's stuff that I think he can develop, especially at 20 years old. I think he can improve his performance against especially breaking balls. Right now, it feels like I don't want to say he's up there without a plan, but it does feel like his plan right now is don't chase anything below the zone. And he's just not ready to get that, 92-mile-an-hour fastball out over middle. He's just not hit that yet too frequently. And then he's obviously swinging and missing at off speed. So I think learning how these guys are going to pitch him, going into the offseason, attacking and trying to improve a little bit against off speed, I think he's a guy that could absolutely take off next season. But, time will tell. But I love what I'm seeing so far out of him. He's not up there looking overwhelmed. He doesn't have the deer in the headlights. He's still working quality at bats.
And it doesn't help that, twice a game he goes into an 0-1 count because the umpire is calling a shin high fastball to strike. It's like how it puts him into a pretty crappy situation right off the bat, and he still works a good AB. So
I've now seen 3 at bats of his where a pitch has been both down and away get called a strike in an 0-0 count. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he would have gotten hits all those at bats. But the fact remains, starting a count 1-0 versus 0-1 is a massive difference. You're going from either being ahead or behind in the count right out the gate. So for a 20-year-old, that's a huge thing. And he's had 3 of them. I mean, some of these zones have been horrible for him.
Especially a 6'7" 20-year-old needs a damn driver to hit that.
Yeah, exactly, James. Next year, he can challenge that when it's way off, and he will, I'm sure.
Did you guys play backyard baseball as kids?
Yeah.
It reminds me of playing with Randy Johnson and having to hit with him when he's got like this long, elongated strike zone, and just everything is getting called a strike because it's like the whole damn body, basically. And it's so much bigger than everybody else's. That's what it feels like up there.
It's pretty accurate.
Obviously, his is going to be a little bit bigger, but there's been some pretty egregious misses by the umps, especially in his first few games. But, the other thing I look at, too, is, we said this before, but he got to face Zach Gallen and Yamamoto in like 2 of his first 3 starts, too. It's like, cut the guy a little bit of slack. Those guys were throwing nothing but change ups and splitters at him pretty much. So
and command them.
Yeah, and command them at the bottom of the zone. You're just not going to get that experience in AAA. Nobody has that ability down there at all. It's all going to be inconsistent. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, even on the off-speed stuff that he's whiffing on, you don't see a guy that's lunging and way out on his front foot or, looks completely off balance or anything. He just looks like his timing isn't there with some of the breaking stuff that he's seen. And I ultimately think it's going to be one of those things next year in spring training where, if he doesn't completely light it up, it's very possible they just make him write it out for a little bit in AAA to start the season and make him force his way back up.
Yeah, and James is 100% right here. If they find out that you can't hit something, that's all you're going to see. Won't make it if you can't hit a curveball. And the one thing I know Roger Munter, pointed this out, and we talked about it last week. When historically, and I'm not going to say it's not strictly hangers, but when he gets stuff off speed a little bit up in the zone, he crushes it. So there is still some swing and miss, but he will punish guys. And I think we're going to see that at some point where somebody's going to leave one up there and he's going to hit it 60 feet into the cove. Like we'll see some of that at some point. But I think there was one more thing I was going to talk. Oh, someone brought up Luis Hernandez. It's nice to see him given some love. Followers of the show, we've been talking about him for over a year at this point. They are still the favorites. He's a good follow on Instagram. If you go check out his page, he posts a lot of, highlights both defensively and offensively. He's been playing in a Venezuelan pro league at 15 years old against guys that are like 10 years older than him, hitting over 300 there. I mean, it's Venezuela. I'm sure like half these guys are like plumbers and crap, but it's still good competition for a 15-year-old. Fun to see.
For sure.
Yeah. Remember the guy that was on like I don't remember what team it was. It might have been like Italy in the World Baseball Classic that struck out Ohtani. And he was like, I'm a car mechanic.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
What up, M?
Comment. Killing me. Can we do something with Rainer Arias? Unfortunately, he's kind of tanked his value a bit, but hopefully we're going to see him probably in San Jose next year. Hopefully he can. I wonder if he just hasn't been fully healthy. Like if those back-to-back wrist injuries he had kind of sap some of his power. Hopefully he can get some of that back. But we'll see.
Hopefully, because dude had a bunch of potential.
Yeah. We'll find out next year. I'll definitely be watching. And big shout outs. I don't know if we did bring it up last week. San Jose, they won their championship.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, we did talk about that last week. And speaking of the minor leagues, because obviously Tuesday was my last minor league update. We are going to probably have to wrap this show here shortly, by the way, everybody. But it was the last minor league update, so we will no longer be doing the Tuesday video regularly. But going forward, I'm not going to announce who we've got on Monday. We are lining up a guest for Monday.
It's pretty much every Monday.
Yes, that is our goal. I cannot 100% promise that, but we are hopefully going to be having a live interview. Some of them might not be live because it's up to the player. We're always going to leave it up to them. We're not going to put them in an uncomfortable spot. But we are hopefully going to have a new player on every Monday for the offseason, at least until these guys got to go to their spring trainings. So we've already got one for Monday lined up. It's a good one. You guys will enjoy that. I mean, if you guys want to announce it, we can, but I don't like I've got PTSD after the Tibbs thing last year.
I think this one's for sure. I think we can announce Mondays.
Yeah. All right. We've got Luis De La Torre joining us on Monday. Who is their number? What's he at now? Like number 15 or something like that, prospect?
He's in the teens, yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got another that's probably going to be a couple weeks after that. That's another guy that's in the teens in Sacramento.
It's going to be a fun offseason.
Super fun personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun pull. But yeah, do you guys have anything else we want to touch on before we wrap this up? I've got to get it running here in a moment, but
just want to emphasize Monday's going to be fun.
yeah.
Although season didn't end how we wanted it to, we're still going to make the best of it here on the show. Yeah. So stay tuned.
I'm going to have to do my best to not mention Bob Melvin getting fired to Luis.
Good call. Custom do-rags, M? I can make the boys some.
Yeah. I'll do a show with do-rags. Just thugging it.
Straight thugging it.
Yeah. And then, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I do believe we're going to probably move our live shows, the normal live shows, to Fridays. So no longer need to compete with Thursday night football. Fridays tend to work a little bit better in the off season. So yeah, I would expect Monday nights, Friday nights, we'll have live shows. We will still put other videos out throughout the off season. And we've got a whole mess of stuff we've kind of alluded to in the past, merchandise, website, all this other stuff that we are going to hopefully get going, membership side, in the offseason here in the near future, probably October or so.
Yeah.
So I think
website, Discord, merch, you name it.
Yeah. I'll end on I find this unlikely for this season.
Yeah, we did talk about that earlier. I was mentioning how he's the least likely guy to be traded because of his contract. Like a team like Cleveland would not take on his contract and trade Quan because he's more expensive than Quan. So
yeah.
We touched on this briefly. I mean, we've talked about it in previous shows, but we touched on one guy in particular. Nick Hundley is pretty much the three of our favorites for the job. So,
yeah, I know a lot of people bring up Mark DeRosa, but I don't.
He's a possibility.
I don't know how he would. Yeah, I don't. I think it's great. He would definitely be a players manager, and I think that he's got good communication skills, but it's hard to know how you'd do handling like bullpens and stuff like that. But I think that we'll wrap it up though. You guys got anything else?
No, I don't got anything else. Let's end the season on a high note. Willie, hit 2 home runs if you're watching. Please and thank you. I can't deal with that curse for another season.
I'm not picky, but please hit 2 off of Freeland.
That'd be nice.
And absolutely pimp the hell out of the second one.
Yeah.
I'm talking an Anthony Santander trot around the bases.
And then do a Jose Bautista bat flip.
Yeah. They're like, this dude just celebrated like he won the World Series because he ended the 30 homer drought.
It's a solo shot in the second inning.
Oh, that's great. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Please do hit that like, hit the subscribe, all that good stuff. We're out. Go Giants.